If you or your team uses BitBucket to store your database script as SQL files, you might want to integrate with the Snowflake platform. This integration would allow you to directly access those SQL files or Python notebooks within the Snowflake environment, enabling a fully automated object creation process or facilitating DataOps CI/CD for your data project. Integrating BitBucket with Snowflake has minor differences compared to the process we covered for GitHub Snowflake integration in our previous video. If you haven't seen that video yet, I recommend watching it because it covers many important concepts in depth, which we are not going to cover in this tutorial. The entire course is hands-on. We will begin by validating both a public and a private repositories in Atlassian BitBucket version control system, including branches and tags. We will see how you can find the BitBucket account level user ID and repo ID that is needed for Snowflake BitBucket integration configuration. Then we will move to Snowflake Snowsite web UI to start creating secret object, API integration object, Git Repository Stage object, and validate all these details using Snowsite web UI as well as using SQL command. We will also discuss how some of them are different from GitHub when it comes to the configuration. Then we will perform some sync operation after changing the files in BitBucket repository and see how these files are reflected in Snowflake via web UI or via SQL command. We will also briefly understand read-write access, which we already covered in the previous video. Finally, we will execute those SQL scripts that we also had done in our previous chapter and will validate if it is very different from our GitHub integration. We will also see if we can use the data files as a seed file and run a copy command via execute immediate statement. So, if this topic is in your learning list, stay tuned until the end of this video for a full hands-on experience. Welcome to my channel Data Engineering Simplified. For all my demonstration, I will be utilizing the free trial edition of Snowflake on AWS. Make sure to adjust the video quality to 4K since all my recordings are in that resolution. To speed up your learning process, consider increasing the playback speed to 1.25x or 1.5x. For direct communication, feel free to message me on my Instagram account. If you are interested in systematically enhancing your Snowflake skill, check out my premium Udemy courses. Let's start with our BitBucket account configuration, where we are going to create personal token generation, and we will also identify how our BitBucket user ID looks like because that is required for the configuration. We'll quickly review how our private repo as well as public repo looks like and what is inside them. I have already created a BitBucket account and created two repositories. One is private, another is public. So let's go to our BitBucket repository. So this is my BitBucket workspace homepage. And this is my workspace. If you notice, my workspace name is Data Engineering Simplified and it is all in lowercase. I have two repositories. One is called My Public Repo, another is called My Private Repo. Both these repo are available under this workspace. Let's click on My Public Repo and see what does it have. I just have two files. It's an empty repository. And we will see if after integration we are able to view these files or not. Go back to other repository. Now this is my private repo. You can see a small lock icon. Let's go and see what files are there inside this repository. So I have some SQL script SQL files. I have some CSV file. I have a Python script and I also have a notebook. We are going to use all of them and see what works and what doesn't work. We have done the similar exercise in our previous chapter. So if you are interested in Snowflake GitHub integration, please go and watch this video. So let's go to our settings and generate a personal token. So to generate a personal token, click on this settings icon and from here you have to go to this personal BitBucket setting. Now here under access management, you can see an option called app passwords. Click on it. I do not have any password available. So here you can click on the create app password and generate a token. So I have given a label. Now I can click on read write admin repository. And now I can also choose read and write. Now this is bothering me. Now let's click on create button. So my token is generated, and what it says, here is your app password for BitBucket Snowflake token, and you will not be able to view this password again once you close the window. So make sure you record it. Let me copy this and record it somewhere. So in the worksheet, I have just copied it. Let me go back to BitBucket. I'm just closing this window. If you have followed my previous video where we have generated the token has an expiry date and there are a lot more options. However, in BitBucket, I do not see that option. Now let's go back to repositories. So this is my workspace. Now there is alternate way to find your BitBucket user ID and workspace name. For that, you can click on any one of this repository. Let me click on this private repository and click on the clone button. And once you clone, you can copy this, and let's go back to Snowsite Web UI, and here I am just copying it. So this is my username, and this username will sit here, and token I have already copied, so I will replace the token, and this is my workspace name which will go here, right? And we'll come back to this page again and we will try to configure it. So make sure that if you are not sure what is your workspace name, what is your BitBucket username, you can click on a clone, and from the clone you would be able to get the complete detail. So we have generated the personal token. We have also understood how to identify the BitBucket user ID or username. We have also reviewed our private repository and the public repository, but let's go and quickly check what kind of content we have in our private repository. So first I will start with my SQL script. So here, if you notice, I have a couple of SQL script. If you look into the file name, some of them are having uppercase, and this v5 is having a lowercase which says stream_dll.sql. Except this version, everything is in a lowercase. This is done with a purpose, and we will see what is the purpose when we get into the Snowsite Web UI execution. Here I have a seed file which has two CSV data, and this is how it looks like. Now if I go to this Python, I have this filter.py which I'm going to use to create a stored procedures, and I have a notebook, and I would like to show you whether it is possible to create a Snowflake notebook using Python or Jupyter notebook, which is available in your BitBucket repository. And if I look into one of this SQL file, let's see how does it look like. So it has a multiple SQL statement, and here first it is changing the context, and followed by it is primarily creating a table. Likewise, other SQL files are also having some kind of DDL and DML statement. We completed this part, and now let's go to Snowflake Web UI to start Snowflake BitBucket integration. Let's quickly review what we are going to do. We are going to create a secret object, followed by integration object, followed by Git Repository Stage object, and then we'll validate all the detail through Snowsite Web UI, and we will also run a couple of SQL commands to understand how to fetch branches, tags, and see the files through SQL command from our BitBucket repository. This is my Snowsite Web UI, and I have two worksheets called BitBucket Private Repo and BitBucket Public Repo, which will be used to create private and public repo integration. So let's start with our private repo first. I have already created a database called demo and BitBucket as a schema, and I am using account admin role to create all those objects. If you're not sure why do we need to have account admin, I would request you to go and watch my previous video where I have covered the RBAC in detail with this account admin. I'm going to create my first object called my BitBucket secret. It is a secret type object, and this is also a schema level object, and I'm going to replace the password with a token value, and this is my user. Let's create this secret object. This is created successfully. Let's see how many secret objects we have it within our BitBucket schema. So this is my secret object which belongs to schema BitBucket database demo, and owner is account admin and type is password. Now I'm going to create an API integration object called my private BitBucket API integration, and this is taking API provider value as a Git HTTPS API. And here if you see allowed prefixes, this is bitbucket.org, and this is my data engineering simplified workspace name. I am picking it from my clone statement. And if you look into this my BitBucket secret, this is nothing but this BitBucket secret object. So let's create this. It is created successfully. Now I can run show integrations. So this is my integration object. It is type external API and category API enabled true. Good. I have not provided any comment. Now next I am going to create a new object which is called Git Repository object, and this is the name of the object. If you look into the parameter, it takes two parameter: API integration, Git credential, and origin. So this API integration is this value, looks good. Credential is this value, this is also good. And if you look into this my private repo Git from this, so here I will copy it, my private repo, I will replace it here. So I am going to create this repository. This got created successfully. Now, how do I know whether it is created successfully or not? Let's go back to our Snowsite database page. So this is my DemoDB, my BitBucket schema, and here we see a new entry called Git Repositories. And here, and this is my private BitBucket repo. Now let me click on this. This is File Explorer, and this is Git Repository Detail. All the folders and file which we have seen in our BitBucket is available here. If I click onto this, I can see I have multiple branches, and right now the main branch is displayed, and this is how it indicates that current branch is a main branch. And here I can see there are total 5 branches and 3 tags. Let's go back and validate from our BitBucket. So I can see all these files looks good, and if I click into the commit, so these are the tags which are visible as a total count. And if I look into the branches, I have so many branches which is also matching from my Snowflake screen. Looks good. As an object owner, I can click on a fetch, and if I click on a fetch, this entire thing will run a pull command from your repository and everything will be refreshed. Okay, if you would like to see what do you have in this feature branch, I can click on it and it will show you a different kind of a script here. Let's quickly see whether it is matching with our BitBucket screen or not. So I go to the source, and here I choose my copy command, and here it is matching. Looks good. Now if I click on this Git repository, and let me shrink this. So this is my origin, this is my API integration, and this is the credential it is used. And if you would like other roles to have read and write access, I can choose that role, and I can give first read access. Once the read access is given, then I can keep the write access. Let's try to give the usage access and see what kind of error does it throw, which we have seen in our last video. So if you look, it says this is an internal stage location. That's why the usage privilege doesn't work on this object. Looks good. So let me cancel this. Now let's quickly create a public repo, for which we don't need to create a secret because public repo is available without any credential. So here first I'm going to create my public BitBucket API integration. It is created successfully, and now let me run show API. So I got two integration. One is a private integration, another is public integration. Now let's click on a clone to make sure that we copy the correct repo name. So this is my public repo, and here also it is my public repo, and this is my workspace, this is my workspace, and this is a fixed value for BitBucket. Let's create this my public BitBucket repo. My public repo is created, and now let's run the show command. So this is my private repo and this is my public repo. Both are having the different origin. Let me expand it. So here it is my private repo, this is my public repo, and for a private I have a credential, but for a public repo I don't have a credential. Looks good. Now if I have to describe this repo, let me run this. This shows the same result. Looks good. Now if I have to see all the branches, I can run list my public repo branches and main branch, and we know that we have only 2 files. So this is how the result appears on the screen. Here if you need to know how many branches do you have it, we can run show git branches in Git repository name of the repo. Let me show you. This is the only branch we have it in this public repo, Let's try with another repo. This is a repo which is available publicly, and if I have to really fetch this detail, how can I do that? So another API integration, I can provide this fixed value, and this is a BitBucket public URL, and let me create that. This got created, and now I'm going to create a repository called demo BitBucket repo, and I am putting this public.git. So this got created. If you come to this place and if you refresh it, I have private repo, one public repo which belongs to my own BitBucket workspace, and this is one of the example I have taken from internet. You can also try that out. Now if I want to see how many branches does it have, I can run show branches command. It has only one branch, and the path of the branches is branches release public. Since it has a /, it has put everything in a double quote. So if I have to list everything from this branch, I can run ls command, and all these files are visible. It has total 285 files. Looks good. So we managed to map a public repo which is within my BitBucket account, as well as we picked a public repo from the internet, and both are accessible from our Snowflake. Let's go back to the private repo and execute some SQL commands. Back to my BitBucket private repo. From the database explorer menu, we understood that there are multiple branches, and if I have to really get the name via SQL command, I can say show git branches in git repository and the name of the repository. So let's execute this SQL. So these are the different branches, and this is the path. Looks good. Now if I have to check the tags within that private repo, so this is the tag and this is the path for the tag. So if you have to fetch the files within the tag, you can always do that. Now if I have to list all the files within the main branch, which we have seen from our web UI, you can get it this way, and all the files are displayed here. And if you have to get a files from a particular branch, you can really replace with a branch. And let me run this branch command once again. This is the path, and let me replace this entire thing. Now let's see what all file does it display. So these are the files which are available as a part of that branch. Looks good. Now in Git, to get a fresh copy, we run a pull command. So we have an equivalent SQL here where we have to alter the repository, and here I would say alter Git repository, name of the repository followed by fetch keyword. Let's try that out. But before that, let me make some minor changes. So this is my private repo. Let me open this readme file and click on edit. Let me commit this. This is done. Let's execute this alter fetch command. Now it says scope is branch, name is main, and result is fast forward. Very similar to what we do using a pull. We managed to complete our Snowflake integration. We have created secret object, integration object, repository stage object. We have also seen how web UI looks like. We ran a couple of SQL commands, understood how to fetch branches and tags using SQL commands. We also understood how to do the synchronization and how the read and write access works. Now let's try to understand how you can run SQL script using execute immediate SQL statement. So there are two ways you can run that, and let me show you first. If you look into the line number 48, here I have execute immediate followed by from keyword, and then it is taking this repo name, and this repo is part of this demo BitBucket schema, and then you have a fully qualified path for this SQL statement. Let me execute this. So my statement got executed and this inventory table got created. If you see here, this inventory table is created under a public schema within demo database. Okay, let's go and validate that. So if I come to this public, I have this table and I have this inventory schema. Looks good. Now let's go back to our database tab and see, can I execute the SQL script from there or not. So this is my private BitBucket repo. Let me shrink it. And if I come to this SQL script, here I have this triple dot, and when I click on this triple dot, it says copy path, copy into worksheet and download. If I click on copy path, it will simply copy the path into the clipboard. And if I click on to copy into worksheet, it has created a new worksheet, and it brought the entire content to this worksheet. Looks good. There is third option called Execute Immediate. When I hover, it says only SQL files can be executed. But this is my SQL file. All of them are SQL file, but they are in uppercase. Now let's see whether a small case allows us to run the SQL file. So here your .SQL files are in a lower case as an extension that it allows. And let me click on it. So this is the entire content, and you can click on Execute Immediate and it will eventually run Execute Immediate. So it is very clear if you are writing your SQL file with uppercase or a lowercase, this Execute Immediate will be enabled or disabled accordingly. I go back to my notebook. So if it is a Python notebook, I automatically get this create notebook, and let me click on that. So this is going to create a notebook within that, and let's click on create. So a notebook is created successfully from my BitBucket notebook file. Looks good. So we ran execute immediate command from our worksheet. We also ran the execute immediate from our database tab, and we understood the limitation. If the .SQL file text is uppercase, the execute immediate doesn't run from the triple dot option. Let's quickly see how we can create a stored procedure using a Python file which is part of our BitBucket repository. This is my new worksheet called BitBucket plus stored proc, and this is my database schema. This is my role, and first I'm going to check how many tables do I have in this schema. I have only one table called inventory. Let's describe how the table looks like. So I have total 4 column ID, some dummy column 1, column 2, and column 3. Looks good. Now I am going to insert few sample records saying that product 1, product 2 up to product 5. So 5 records got inserted. Now let's say this is my select statement where I am specifying column 3 value equals to product 5. It should bring only one row. Okay, expected. Now I am going to create a stored procedure, and the stored procedure definition is available in this v7 create sp.sql file. Let's quickly see how does it look like. So this is my main branch, and I go to the SQL script, and this is my v7 create sp.sql in a small case. And if you look into this, this is the definition of a stored procedure, which takes table name, in this case inventory, column value which is product 5, product 3, product 2. So it returns a table or result set with the same structure. Language is Python, version 3.8, packages is Snowflake, and here this is the repo name, and from the repo this is a branch. So here this is my Git repo, which I need to change it. So this is modified. If I go back to the source again and go to this Python script, if I look into this Python script file, here it is taking the table name and column name and creating a data frame, and from the data frame it is applying a filter on the column 3 based on this column value, which is nothing but this input parameter. If you are not sure how the Snowpark thing works, I have a 2 dedicated playlist where you can learn everything about Snowpark. It's very similar to the Apache Spark, but it works very differently under the hood. So let's go back to Snow site. So first I am going to run this alter statement to fetch my private BitBucket repo. So I got my main branch refreshed. Generally fetch refresh all your branches, and let me see whether that file exists or not. So v7 should appear. So I can see my v7 with .sql in lowercase. Now I don't need to run this Python file. It will be referred automatically from my this repo location. This is a branch, and this is the main branch, and this is the folder location. Now let's execute it. So this is case sensitive. Let's rerun it. So it got created. If I have to validate, let me refresh this. Go to demo, go to BitBucket, and here my procedure is available. Now it's time to test it. So I got my result back. This makes my life super easy because I can refer a complex Python function through stored proc. I can really invoke that function by passing a parameter. So this is the power of BitBucket Snowflake integration. we managed to complete this task also. If you come to my repository, I have a folder called seed folder, and let's see what does it have. It has 2 employee files, and it is possible sometime that you want to run a copy command to load that file. So in the next section, we are going to see, can I run a copy command through my execute immediate? Let's try to understand what we are going to do first. So this is my new worksheet called copy worksheet. I am using role account admin, and this is my schema demo.bitbucket. I am creating a employee table, and I am creating a file format. Now I am creating an internal stage called my stage. Now let's quickly upload a CSV file in my stage. Let's enable the directory services. This is my employee01.csv file, which is there in our feeds folder. Not changing anything and clicking on upload button. So this file is successfully loaded into this internal stage. Let's go back to the worksheet. Now if I run the list stage, it is available here. Now if I have to run a copy command, this is how the command looks like. Copy into employee table from my stage. All the files, which are CSV in this case, will be copied, and it will follow this file format. So let me run this. So it got loaded, and if I run select star from the employee table, I got 100 records. Looks good. Now if I list my BitBucket location, this is the feed file. And what if I have to load this feed file by referring to this location? Will it work or not? That's what we want to experiment. So this is my copy command, and instead of giving this my stage, which is Snowflake internal stage, can I refer this repo stage and give this path to tell Snowflake that upload that file from this location? Let's try that out. So I ended with an error saying that unsupported feature copy into table from Git repository is not possible. So we have covered pretty much everything which is related to this BitBucket Snowflake integration, and I hope you have learned a lot from this tutorial. If you have any specific query and questions related to BitBucket Snowflake integration, feel free to drop a note in the comment section below. I hope you got something valuable from this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Your support not only recognizes the work behind this free content, but also helps others to discover this playlist. And if you think it can help someone else in your team, feel free to share. Thanks for watching, and let's spread the knowledge and growth together.